Welcome in, everybody, to Grind Time, powered by Full Time Fantasy and the FFWC. I am your host, Billy Muzio, and with me today is Pat Fitzmaurice. He is the managing editor at FantasyPros. He is an expert ranker. He's also the host of the Fitz on Fantasy podcast, as well as just a super cool dude. Glad to have you on, Pat. Enjoyed our time together when we were in Canton. We got to have some late night bar interactions, hanging out, eating some fried chicken sandwiches and waffles at about 1:30 in the morning. I had a really good time getting to know you in person, meeting you, and welcome to have you back on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Billy. Yeah, it was a blast to hang out with you in Canton. We had a pretty good time, didn't we?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, had a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite things to do in the industry is go to that thing and mingle with everybody and hang out and just have a good time.
Yeah, that we did, man. A lot of late nights, a lot of people happy to chop it up into the wee hours. So fantastic time.
Yeah. So let's real quick before we jump into the Week 8 discussion. I know that you are heavily involved in the rankings. You've been top of the boards for the consistency year-over-year rankings. Where do you sit for the year-over-year, and where do you sit right now currently for 2022 for weekly rankings?
Oh man, it has not been that great a year, Billy. I mean, I've got you just putting me to shame here. You're up at number 2. I think I'm at 44 or whatever. And
that's respectable though.
It is. I mean, like I always want to be top 25, like it's, I look at it like, being a college football team. I always want to be going to a decent bowl game, getting the top 25 at 44. Maybe I'm going to the Alamo Bowl or some lesser game or something like that. But there's still time to move up. But man, I had a couple of weeks where I was like not in the top 100 back to back, and that kind of killed me. So
yeah, it's honestly, it's been a challenging year. Like I've spent more time on rankings this year than any of the time the last couple years, and it's just been, I think tight end, quarterback have been some of the hardest positions to really project and to hammer down. Running back's been pretty consistent, I'd say, but wide receiver also has those boom bust weeks. So I feel you, man. It's been tough. I've had some blow up weeks. I think in wide receivers last week I was like 168 or something. It was horrible. But the other positions carried it, so not too bad. But I think we're in an FSGA league, couple of Video Showdown. My team is trash. How's your teams in those?
My team is also trash in the Video Showdown. I remember getting stuck at like pick 13, and I did not want to go. My hand felt forced to go running back, and I went like Dalvin Cook and Najee Harris, so that was kind of disastrous. But it's getting better by the minute, Billy, because I have Kadarius Toney and Tyler Boyd in that Video Showdown league. So
wheels up.
The hand is getting better. It's like having a trash Texas Hold'em hand and getting hit with like a straight on the flop. So, and then that FSGA league, 2-5, which is terrible. I think we're both 2-5. I don't totally hate my team. But I'll be honest, I kind of forgot about that league, and I didn't set a lineup in week 1. And unlike most sites, RT Sports does not like give you the default highest drafted guys at every position. So I just took a 0 that week, and I think I actually would have had a really good week. So could have maybe been 3-4, but how much better is that than 2-5? I guess.
Yeah, I started off 0-2. I've won the last 5, so 5-2 right now. So I'm not sitting horrible.
Oh, nice.
I've gotten lucky a couple weeks. I had some. So I think I snuck by a win with like a 101, but I felt a little better because the prior week I lost 142 to 152, and so it's. And in these leagues, for those of you who are listening, these are 14-team leagues. These are deep rosters. So like 150 is a good score inside this league, and 140 is a good score. When you get in the low 100s, like you shouldn't win. So I snuck a couple through, got lucky. The team's coming together, though, because I had Hopkins. I said, if I can make it through 50-50 with Hopkins, I'm in a good spot. And I think we're starting to see that. I feel like I turned a corner. I have more depth now on the roster. I'm not just, rostering a guy that's suspended for 6 weeks anymore. He actually can slide into the starting lineup every week. So I'm feeling confident about it now. But
nice.
Confidence. So people who drafted Josh Jacobs should feel pretty confident about where he's sitting currently when it comes to Week 8. He continues to impress, running back 4 on the season in half PPR. Is he a top 5 running back moving forward? I mean, we saw him see 80% snaps or more for the past 3 weeks.
I think he's really close to it, and that kind of depends on some of the guys around him, like Jonathan Taylor, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry. But the good news is that he is getting such an enormous workload and consistently big. Like, he's had 20 plus carries in 3 straight games. He's averaged 5 targets a game over his last 4. And I don't think he's had any less than 4 targets, which is nice because, like, Jacobs did not used to be involved in the passing game at all. And then all of a sudden they kind of started throwing to him like late last season, and that's kind of stuck. I wasn't sure it was going to, because in the first few weeks of this season, I think he only had like 1 or 2 targets in those opening games. But lately, they're re-involving him in the passing game. People were worried that maybe Zamir White would challenge him for carries, not happening. That like Amir Abdullah would come in and take passing down snaps away from him, not really happening. I mean, he is just a workhorse. And, in a pretty good offense, too.
Yeah, had I had my crystal ball, I think my projections would have completely changed on him. I had thought McDaniels coming over from the Patriots, we were going to see more of a committee backfield. I was one who thought that Zamir White was going to be challenging him a little bit on 1 and 2 downs. I thought they were going to get Brandon Bolden involved. I thought they were going to get, Abdullah involved. I thought we are just going to see this, circus of running backs that were going to be used in every fashion that McDaniels could possibly imagine, because that's what he did in New England for all these years. And I think that's probably my biggest miss of the season so far is Josh Jacobs. I think I had him outside my top 24 in my pre-draft rankings, and he's sitting right now running back 4 on the year. So top 5 moving forward. Did you say yes?
Yeah. If I had to say today, I would say yes.
Okay. Yeah, I lean there. I think he's probably at that 5 mark, maybe 6 at the worst, but
yeah.
I definitely think he's definitely in the conversation there. Kenneth Walker season is upon us. Last 2 weeks, he was running back 2 in half-point PPR. He's had 44 rushing attempts, 265 rushing yards, is a 6.0 yard per carry, 3 rushing touchdowns, and then he also has had 2 receptions for 13 yards. Do you think that Walker is probably now in the lead, or I should say at least in the top of the discussion for Offensive Rookie of the Year? And if not, who is it?
I think he is probably the favorite right now, but I don't think he's that far ahead of Dameon Pierce.
Okay.
And like, the reason I think you have to give Walker the edge is just the better offense, the better supporting cast. The Seattle offense has surprised us all this season, Billy. And, whereas I think the Texans are going to be pretty limited, continue to be pretty limited, but they do give Pierce a lot of carries. Both of these guys are pretty close to true workhorses. So, it'll be an interesting battle and a pretty good year for rookie running backs, I guess. I mean, shame to lose Breece Hall, obviously, probably the best of all, but not too bad on the second tier here with Walker and Pierce.
Where do you think Olave slides in? Do you think he's in the question here as well, or at least in the discussion?
I think he's behind those two, but if we continue to see the foot issue from Michael Thomas, keeping him out, if Jarvis Landry doesn't get back, I mean, Olave is definitely the best of the rookie wideouts and in the best situation because they are giving him a lot of throws. He is scooping up a lot of targets, high value downfield targets. So yeah, I would say he would probably be third in the Offensive Rookie of the Year chase.
And is Ken Walker, you think a top 10 back rest of the season, or where do you have him in your rest of season rankings?
I think I had him inside the top 10, Billy. I think he was like 9th or something like that.
That's about where I have him as well. So I think that's about right. Moving on, Gus Edwards finished as running back 8 in week 7, his first game back from injury. He rushed the ball 16 times, 66 yards, 4.1 yard per carry. He did add 2 scores. What's your opinion on Gus the Bus this week? He gets a pretty tough Tampa Bay front, and he is coming off a short week, kind of nursing that injury still. Where does he fall in your rankings this week?
Yeah, I'm a little bearish on him, Billy. I think I'm running back 32 and a half point PPR. And so Like this is still kind of a three-pronged backfield. We
Yeah.
saw, I think it was Gus with 23 snaps. Maybe I can't remember if it was Drake with 20 and Justice Hill with 17 or vice versa. But, it was only a 36% snap share for Gus. He did, get carries on 16 of his 23 snaps. So they do give him the ball at a high rate. And I think we'll probably see that, maybe not to that extent, but I think we'll see him get a high percentage of touches on his snaps, but he doesn't really factor in the passing game, never really has. And as you mentioned, Buccaneers are a pretty tough matchup. They've always been pretty good against the run. Maybe a little less tough a matchup with Akeem Hicks out at defensive tackle for them tonight, but maybe tougher than last week.
I think, yeah, good point to the Akeem Hicks. If you see me slap myself, there's a fly like flying around. It's just driving me nuts. So if you just go after myself, I'm going to get it pretty soon. If he lands in the right spot, I'm going to get him. So a couple names I want to throw out there. Just let me know if you have them higher or lower than Gus Edwards. Tyler Algier.
For this week, I think he is one spot higher.
Okay. Kareem Hunt.
Lower. I'm a little worried that what happens, Billy, if the Browns are in a trade negotiation with someone on Monday and the trade deadline is Tuesday. Like what if they just decide to pull Hunt? Like it wouldn't shut, and it would be scary to have to start him as a guy who's been rumored to be on the trading block,
Yeah, there's a few leagues because of that reason that I had started like Gus Edwards above him. I think I even had Melvin Gordon in over him, Antonio Gibson, players that normally I'd slide Hunt in ahead of him, hoping for a touchdown because he's been so touchdown dependent as of late. But this week in particular, you hit the hammer on the nail. Trade deadline is on Tuesday or Wednesday, right? It's
Tuesday, I believe, right?
Around the corner. It's either one of those days, but it's around the corner. And we have Hunt's name has been at the forefront of those discussions. So I could definitely see something like that happening. So very, very good point there. Speaking of trades, James Robinson was just traded to the New York Jets after Breece Hall was confirmed with his torn ACL. What does this mean for this backfield? Would you say Carter every week running back 2 moving forward?
I'm going to say more like higher end running back 3. I mean, I like him as a running back 2 this week because I think, much like we saw with Christian McCaffrey, it seems unlikely James Robinson is going to get like a huge workload right off the bat in his first week, even though Robinson got traded on a Monday night and McCaffrey was traded on a Thursday, couple extra days for Robinson, but still, I think Saleh has already said they're not going to give him like a real heavy workload right off the bat. But then after that, Billy, how do you read this? Do you think it's going to be like basically a 50-50 value split, or do you see Carter maybe being a little more valuable?
I think Carter's a little more valuable. The way I looked at it was Carter was already seeing nearly 50% of snaps on a week-to-week basis with Hall in the lineup, and Hall was looking electric and dynamic. James Robinson comes over now week 1, probably going to be limited at best because he has to learn the offense, probably going to run more between the tackles, run A gap left, run B gap right, and then they might see him on some goal line touches. But I think now all of those receptions that Breece Hall was benefiting from, because people remember he was a top 5 back in target share in the league. Now all that goes to Carter, in my opinion, who was already pretty highly targeted as well. So we've seen now Zach Wilson is inapt at throwing the ball down the field and has been relying on his running backs. I think that lean is going to continue on passing downs to Carter. I think James Robinson picks up some more of the 1-2 downs, and I think we're going to see a more traditional split. But I think that split, I think James Robinson sees more short yardage and probably sees more carries up the gut where they're going to get a little bit more creative with Carter. So if I had to guess week 1, I'd probably say Ty Johnson is involved more than we're going to see him moving forward. I think Ty Johnson probably sees the field because James Robinson is going to have to learn the playbook. I still think Robinson sees the field, but probably not in that 40% range, which I expect to see him moving forward. And then I think that Carter probably sees 63% this week, and then probably starts tapering off in that 54 to 56 range moving forward.
Yeah, I like your read on that. And, like we know that targets are worth a little more than carries as far as fantasy value. And I think we're going to see Carter still as the dominant pass catching back in this offense. So
I would agree. So what do you think this does? So, I mean, this does not just affect the Jets, right? This affects now Jacksonville. And we saw Travis Etienne of the last couple of weeks come on hot. What does this do to Etienne now that Robinson is moved on to the New York Jets?
So it definitely pumps up his value. I mean, I think he's he's top 20 rest of season for sure. And the only thing is, Billy at Clemson, he never averaged more than 14 carries a game in any of his 4 years there. But obviously he's this terrific dual threat run catch guy, explosive, big play capabilities. He's just not really built to handle 20 carries a game, I don't think. So, I mean, he's built more like Dalvin Cook, who does handle 20 carries a game, but I don't think he's kind of cut from that same cloth where he's able to take that kind of workloads. I think they're going to choose between JaMychal Hasty or Snoop Connor and make one of those guys kind of a complimentary, take some of the early down work away, but still obviously he's going to be immensely valuable. And this trade was clearly Jacksonville's way of saying you are our guy, and you got to be thrilled if you're an ETN investor.
Yeah, half-point PPR. He had 18.4 fantasy points last week. He had 114 rushing yards and a score. The prior week, he had 86 on the ground, 22 in the air. The snap counts is something that I was looking at, and after the trade, it made a lot more sense. But when you take a look at the snap counts, week number 5, so let's look at the last 3-week trend. Week 5, he saw 53.3% of the snaps. Week 6, 46%. And then he had, and that was, of course, the 100-yard game between the air and the ground. And then he has week 7 last week, 80.3%. You think that was designed, or do you think that they knew they were going to be trading James Robinson? I mean, the Robinson trade, of course, happened after the Hall injury, but what do you think caused? I mean, 30% jump in snaps is pretty large, and we know it was because of the game he had the week before. It was phenomenal, but still, 30% is a massive jump in snap share.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder if the trade was in the works, because to see James Robinson just basically erased from the offense, no one was expecting that. I mean, everyone going into last week was excited for ETN and his growing role in this. And, but no one expected Robinson to just disappear completely. So it makes me wonder if maybe they didn't have an inkling already that they were going to deal him.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And we of course, no one knew. They didn't know it was going to be the Jets because Breece Hall had been injured yet, but probably knew that he was going to be moved somewhere, some shape, some form. Last running back, and then we'll hop to some of the comments in the chat before we move on to wide receiver. But last running back, Zeke Elliott is expected to miss week 8 with a knee injury. Tony Pollard's season now is here. This is kind of the liberating day that all of us Pollard truthers have been waiting for. Where do you have Pollard in your ranks, and how many names would you say are above him in your rankings?
Oh, here are the names, Billy. I've got, and this feels like it's overly conservative, but I've got Barkley, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs.
Okay, I got those 3 too.
CMC.
Okay.
Jonathan Taylor.
Okay.
Nick Chubb.
Yep.
Kenneth Walker.
Okay.
Dalvin Cook, and I don't feel great about this last one, Joe Mixon. So I might move Pollard ahead of Mixon. Right now I've got Pollard RB10.
So we're in the same range. I initially had him at 10. I moved him to 11. So a lot can change between now and then, right? And I think that's the same range I have him in. I had some people saying number 1 running back. I'm like, okay, hold your horses, folks. Derrick Henry is facing Houston this week, and he's probably going to run for 180 yards and 5 touchdowns, right? And that's an exaggeration, everybody, but that's the kind of level. That's how bad Houston is. And so when I saw number 1, I was like, man, I bet I'm going to go back and look at some of these numbers. But Pollard for me comes in about number 10, 11 right now. I think we're in the same boat. There's a lot of the same names pretty much everybody you listed I had ahead of him as well. The only one that I think he might move ahead of is going to be Kamara going into the week. But again, Raiders are also pretty bad versus the run. I think bottom 6 in the league. So it's tough. There's just so many good matchups this week in the running back position. It's just hard to move him that far up your rankings, even though we really want to, because he's had explosive weeks in limited capacity. And now he finally gets the entire workload to himself. I still have to just calm myself down and temper expectations, because he's not a back that's built for 20 plus carries, quite frankly, right? He's probably more that 15, 17 touch kind of guy at a max, I'd think. Could probably get away with a couple weeks of 20 plus touches, but at what point are we going to see his body break down if he sees 20 plus touches in this week?
Yeah, that's it. They're probably going to mix in. Is it Malik Davis? Is that their backup with Dowdle hurt? So yeah, exactly. I mean, I imagine he gets like half a dozen carries too. So yeah, they can't just work him into the ground.
So let's get a couple of the comments worked in here, and then we'll move our way to the wide receiver position. We're making good time. We have a question here. Hope tonight's game is good. Are you leaning Rashad Bateman or Wan'Dale Robinson this week? I'm thinking 100% starting Bateman now if he's confirmed active. How about you, Pat?
Yeah, I'd go Bateman too. And I think it's is it Carlton Davis? I think Carlton Davis is still going to be out for the Buccaneers. Or is it Dean? I think it's Davis. So, plus we're not seeing Andrews at full health. Maybe he's a little, I don't know, maybe they cut back on his snaps just a little bit. But I'm pretty excited about Bateman still. I think he's basically the same kind of lower end wide receiver 2 we thought he was going to be going into this season. Hasn't seen quite the number of targets we thought he was going to, but he's been pretty good on the targets as far as efficiency, making the most of them. He's hit on some big plays. So I would take him over Wan'Dale.
Yeah, last week he saw 56.2% snap share as his first week back off injury. I think we probably see closer to 80%, if not higher, with Andrews banged up as well. It's tough to kind of pinpoint what's going to happen this week. You have your 2 most targeted passing options who are a little banged up, and the running game isn't quite where it needs to be. I think it's challenging, but I also lean Bateman in this scenario as well. So Wan'Dale, I think, definitely going to see probably 6 to 7 receptions, but Bateman could see a 30-40 yard touchdown like he has in the past. So I lean Bateman here as well. We kind of touched base on this one, but he did throw in another name here, so I want to throw it up here. Would you start Gus tonight, or would you start Darrell Henderson?
I've got Henderson ranked 2 spots higher. It's close. I don't love the way the Rams have looked on offense. Their running game, like they can't run block, which is unfortunate. But I do think he has the backfield more or less. Well, I don't know if it's to himself. I think he's going to get more snaps and more touches than Gus Edwards will this week.
I concur. I think I have Darrell Henderson about 5 or 6 spots higher than Gus this week, so we're both on the same page there. This one's an easy one for me. Needs a home run, Aaron Jones or Bateman. I go Aaron Jones pretty easily.
Gotta go Jones, yeah.
Yep, especially with Lazard out, so that one's easy. And then we have someone just wants to say hello, good evening. And then we have someone here, another Gus Edwards question. Gus Edwards or Brian Robinson?
Oh, let's see. I've got Robinson at, I said 32 for Gus, and I've got Robinson, running back 25. I personally think Antonio Gibson is their best running back still, but hey, they don't seem to agree with me, so I still got to go Robinson there.
Yeah, I was screaming at the television the first week back that Brian Robinson came back from injury. I had him like at running back 41 or something. I was thinking there's no way they're going to give him the rock 15, 20 times a game. That's exactly what they did. And, Antonio Gibson, who has one of the highest metric scores possible of running back, I just can't wait till he's traded. He's going to go to a team. If he's not traded, next year he's gone. He's going to go to a team that's going to utilize his talents, and he'll probably be the back that we all thought he was going to be, just not on the Washington Commanders. So
yeah, he's as big and as fast as Jonathan Taylor, Billy, and he's a former college wide receiver who can catch passes. Like I don't understand I know he's had some fumbling issues, but come on.
I mean, okay, while we're on the topic, he legitimately could be like a top 5 running back if he was used properly. Like from a talent standpoint, I agree. Tall, fast, big, has the hands like McCaffrey. He honestly could be like a Christian McCaffrey back in this league.
Yes,
it's infuriating.
It is. I'm totally with you, man. Big pet peeve.
Oh man, this is a hot topic probably, but I think it's Are you going to bench Andrews at all in any leagues if he's active?
No, I can't afford to. I think it was frightening that he missed the practices this week and really didn't get any in before this game. But I think that was just them exercising caution during the week and just getting as much rest for him as I still think he's going to play a big role. So there's no way. I mean, I'm keeping him at tight end 1, Billy, and that might be crazy, but I just in a week where Kelsey is out, he's still my guy.
Yeah, it's honestly, it was so hard clicking the button down, and then I just looked at it and said, "Oh my God, who am I going to put here now?" It's so easy every week to lock in Kelsey or Andrews and the other one at number 2, and just be done at the top 2 positions, and then work your way down. It's so much more difficult this week with Kelsey out and Andrews banged up. So I understand. I would not personally be able to sit Andrews if active tonight, even though I love Dulcich, and Dulcich did see 70% of snaps last week. Anytime they travel across the pond, I'm a little concerned. They have the time zone changes, the early game. Russell Wilson has just been playing like hot garbage, let's just be honest. And and it has not been pretty. He's coming off injury as well. So as much as I like Dulcich and as much as well as he's been playing, and it's clear that he is now the tight end 1 in Denver, I would still be playing Andrews over him this week. Okay, let's put those questions on pause. Let's move on to wide receivers. Mike Williams is going to be out for the next 4 weeks after suffering an ankle injury in week 7. Who's the wide receiver to own moving forward that's not named Keenan Allen?
I guess Josh Palmer. Okay. And I'm not super excited about him. He's had some opportunity, obviously, with Allen being out and didn't really cash in. A lot of people were high on the talent level after what we saw last week. And, I don't think Josh Palmer is terrible or anything, but we just haven't seen that with the increased opportunity that he can be an impact guy.
Well, he was also coming off injury too, as well. So
True.
I think because prior to the injury, I think he had a top 20 finish, and then he got injured, and it's kind of been, less than stellar. I had him too high in my rankings every week, I'm going to be honest, because I liked the talent. Does anyone like DeAndre Carter? Does that pique your interest at all?
Yeah, I mean, he's so where are the slot snaps going to be going with Keenan Allen back? And is it one of those situations where, I don't know, he's maybe forced to play outside some, and I don't know if that really suits him, but I'm kind of interested for sure. And, in a week like next week when we're going to have 6 teams on bye, he might be a guy who finds his way into some lineups.
I don't know about you, but I love the bye weeks. When bye weeks and injuries hit, this is what separates the men from the boys in fantasy.
It does reward depth. Absolutely. There's no question about it. Next week with the 6 teams, I know I'm in a 16 team league, and I feel really good about my depth in that league. And I'm bring on the 16 bye week, man.
Yeah. I love it. You look at it and say the players who have been grinding the waivers week in and week out, who've been trying to find those players, looking ahead, this is where they get benefited the most, is those really big bye weeks, and of course when injuries hit as well. Can't predict those, but it definitely adds to the complexity to solve the matrix code. Next receiver, Paris Campbell, quietly the wide receiver 7 in half PPR of the last 2 weeks. 17 receptions, 23 targets, 127 yards, and 2 scores in that span. There was a change of guard. Matt Ryan is now out of the picture. Sam Ehlinger is now in. How does this affect Paris Campbell? Do you think Paris Campbell is flex-worthy moving forward, or are you just still going to keep him on your bench and regret the points when he scores them?
I'm probably going to regret the points, Billy. I've got him wide receiver 58, and I just can't I can't embrace him with Sam Ehlinger at quarterback. It's just when I was starting to maybe realize I was going to have to move him up some, they make that quarterback move, and it just kind of spooked me, I guess. I just can't get in on him. And I've still got, do you have Campbell or Alec Pierce ranked higher this week?
Let me check. I got Alec Pierce still at 48, and I have Campbell at 53. So
yeah, I still
have Pierce.
I've got it 50 and 58, I think. So I still have Pierce higher also.
Anytime there's a, I wouldn't say, so I mean, he is a rookie, but anytime there is a quarterback who is maybe new to the NFL or maybe less than stellar, they typically lean on their bigger bodied receivers, their tight ends, someone they can just throw up to and let them get it. And so that fits more Alec Pierce's mold than Paris Campbell, in my opinion. But who knows? Maybe everything's going to be short and intermediate, and it's going to benefit Campbell. So I've kind of gone back and forth in my head on these two scenarios, but I keep leaning with the bigger bodies.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Next receiver, so DJ Moore finished week 7 as wide receiver number 8. Finally, a week that we got to see DJ Moore as some fantasy points. He had 10 targets, 7 catches, 69 yards, and a score. That was with PJ Walker. So does PJ Walker for you change DJ Moore's outlook moving forward in 2022?
I don't know if it's so much PJ Walker. I'm happy it's not Baker Mayfield, Billy. And like, even if Sam Darnold comes back and is the guy after this week, I feel pretty good about Darnold because Darnold made DJ Moore work last year. You know, like even though Darnold struggled after a decent start, like even when he was struggling, he was at least feeding DJ Moore. So, you know, I think it helps that Robbie Anderson is gone. I think it helps that CMC is gone. It's kind of a target windfall for DJ Moore. And I love the matchup this week against the Falcons. I mean, they have just been hemorrhaging fantasy points to wide receivers. And then AJ Terrell, their one pretty good cornerback, goes down with a hamstring injury last week. They were already without Casey Hayward, who's on IR. I just think this is such a nice setup for DJ Moore this week.
So the answer is anybody but Baker.
Pretty much, yes.
Hopkins finished last week as wide receiver 10, his first game back from his 6-game suspension. Do you think he's a top 10 receiver week in, week out moving forward?
I think he's really close to it, Billy, at least until – did you get him?
I almost got him.
Close.
That was close.
At least until Hollywood Brown comes back. I think he's going to be, borderline, low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2.
Okay, that's about where I have him too. And then let's talk about Pittsburgh. Who is the wide receiver 2 to own moving forward, Pickens or Claypool?
Oh, it's Pickens, man. I'm just so smitten with that dude. Like crisp route running, great hands, knack for making the acrobatic catch, and this physicality like I didn't realize he had coming into the league. Like he is just a tough blocker, seems to like relish the contact and like, I just love the dude, man. I think he's going to be a star.
Have you seen the press coverage where he like just runs at the guy and just knocks him down?
Oh yeah,
it's like 2 yards out, knocks him on his back, and then just runs.
He shocks dudes with those hands, man. That guy has got a punch. Like,
so
he is tough.
Pre-draft rankings, he was like my wide receiver 5, and I had him slotted to go to Green Bay at the end of round 1. It just made so much sense.
Oh my God.
And then it didn't happen. And I was all depressed. And then
you're talking to a Packers fan, Billy. How much better? And like the one thing Rodgers needed was like a polished wide receiver.
Yep.
And they wind up making the move up to get a receiver, but it winds up being like the greenest wide receiver out of all the top candidates. Like, he needed an Olave or a Pickens, someone who was ready to contribute right away. That wasn't Watson, man. Frustrating.
Yeah, I was never a Watson believer. He definitely a talented individual from just a physical standpoint, raw talent wise, one of probably the most talented receivers. But from a NFL standpoint, ready NFL standpoint, route running, mental capacity, just lacked in all the categories. And I don't think he was ready. He could be another Dorial Green Beckham kind of thing. It could just, hopefully not. Hopefully they're able to get him, involved a little bit more. But definitely was upset to see him go there.
Yeah, I mean, Watson is at least a good kid, which you could not say about Dorial Green Beckham. Don't get me started on Packers GM Brian Gutekunst because I've got some beef with that guy.
All right, let's go a couple more questions. We'll hop over to tight ends. Someone asked Gus Edwards or Henderson again. We already answered that. We both went Henderson. We have Legacy here says one flex, wide receiver Olave, Godwin, Walker. Man, that's all he can pick is
wow.
Oh, one flex and one wide receiver.
I see.
So you get to pick 2 of these guys. I'm going Godwin and Walker, I think.
Yeah, me too. Close. I think I've got Godwin one spot ahead of Olave, but yeah, it would be
Yeah.
Godwin and Walker for me also.
Okay, we're on the same page there. It's very close. All these guys, I think Etienne is definitely in the argument, but Walker is a top 8 back this week. Godwin's probably top 12 wide receiver. So we both go with the same. So that should be reassuring for you, Legacy. We have Giselle said two of his favorite analysts in the industries.
Oh.
Happy to see you on the show, Pat. And then we have
Appreciate that, JJ.
another Gus Edwards question. It's Gus night. We'll just call this pod the Gus the Bus show. Start one, Gus the Bus, Romeo Dubes or Dobbs technically, or Isaiah McKenzie.
Oh man, I got to go Gus. Even with Lazard not likely to play. Like I don't know if that necessarily helps Dobbs or. I'm going Gus here. What about you, Billy?
I think slight lean Gus just because I'm hoping for some red zone action from Gus, but I love me some Romeo. I was higher on him than the average person. I just did a show earlier with Dave Kluge, and I talked about the benefits of Romeo Dobbs. I'm pulling my notes because I can't remember them all. Real quick, I'll just kind of read through since it's in the question here. So Romeo is wide receiver 23 in red zone targets in the year. We've seen his snaps increase over the week, so 95.9% in week 4, 95.9% in week 6. He did only see 88.9 last week, but with Lazard slotted to be out, I'm expecting him to be in that 95 to 100% range. We have seen 17.4% target share from Romeo on the season. Lazard was seeing 19.8. Red zone, though, red zone target share, Romeo was seeing 18.8, where Lazard was seeing 26.9, so I think that target share in the red zone, well over 25% of it, is going to be distributed between Romeo as well as Etienne, so we're probably a little bit better odds to see a touchdown for Romeo. And then there are roughly 9 targets up for grabs on the week with Lazard out. So I have Romeo right now as like wide receiver 33 with Lazard out. But I'm not super confident about it, but I think that's probably where he's going to be heading towards out of the receiving core that he has right now.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm going to be compelled to move him up some without Lazard, but man, as bad as it has been for Dobbs in recent weeks, it's going to be tough.
So, okay, I ask everyone this question. I want to get your take. So I have a steak dinner bet with my draft partner, Dave Hubbard. Beginning of the year, I picked Romeo Dobbs. He picked Curtis Samuel, who have a better season.
Ooh.
Who do you favor now moving forward with Heineke in now for the next 4 weeks or foreseeable future, and with Lazard out this week, or what may ever happen in Green Bay?
Yeah, man, that's a hard one to handicap, Billy. Like I think that one's going to be pretty close. Like and I've never been a huge Curtis Samuel guy. Like I think he's a little gadgety, and I thought Jahan Dotson's arrival might kind of spell the end of Samuel, but hasn't been the case. So that's tough, man. I think just because like of the wide receiver need, like unless Green Bay makes some sort of major acquisition, unless they get a Chase Claypool or a Brandon Cooks or something like that, I would maybe give you a slight edge there.
First 3 weeks,
very slight though.
First 3 weeks, I was asking Dave how he liked his steak cooked because it was not looking promising. After Curtis Samuel was like wide receiver 10,
right. I
was like, man, I'm in trouble. I thought, good thing Dave's a cheap date. We'll probably go to the Outback or something and have fun. But moving on to the tight ends now. Juwan Johnson finished the week as tight end number 7. Finished week 7 as tight end number 2 with Adam Trautman shelved, I should say. Where does he land in your week 8 rankings? Is he in every week tight end 2 moving forward?
Yeah, I've got him as a tight end 16 this week, and I think probably moving forward, like they were starting to get Adam Trautman a little more involved, but with Trautman out of the picture, it helps. And the Raiders are a really good matchup. I mean, they've given up 6 touchdowns to tight ends. I think the 5th most fantasy points. So, I like him as a potential play this week.
And so people say that Taysom Hill's a tight end. I don't think he's a tight end. He's only had 2 targets the entire season. He has 3 yards the entire season in the air. All of his production has been on the ground. But that being said, we still rank him as a tight end. Where does he come in your rankings?
I think tight end 6. Billy, and I know it is weird because he doesn't play that many snaps.
Yeah.
He's played like 90 offensive snaps all year, but he's also gotten the ball. He's had a touch, whether it was like a pass attempt, a target, or a carry on, I think, 42% of his snaps so far this year. So like the snaps don't really matter. And, you're playing for that big week. It's weird. You're either going to get a 0 or you're going to get like 20 points. So, and, as gruesome as it is, I think I'd rather play him than like an Irv Smith or a Hunter Hurst.
I feel seen right now.
Yeah, is that your take too?
No, I actually moved Irv ahead of Taysom this week just because of the matchup.
Oh, did you?
But I just out of spite, I was trying to like remove Taysom Hill from tight end rankings and add him to running back rankings, but the system wouldn't allow me. So I was like, man, he'd be much easier to project as a running back than as a tight end.
Yes, no kidding, man.
So I was like, nope, cheat code was not unlocked. I have to rank him as a tight end. So I have him in that same area. Unfortunately, I can't figure it out. David Njoku suffered a high ankle sprain week 7. He did say today, though, it's feeling better by the day. But can Harrison Bryant, can he fill the void this week, do you think? And where does he land in your rankings?
Yeah, I've got him right behind Juwan Johnson, tight end 17. And, Jacoby Brissett has targeted tight ends on 30.2% of his throws this year. So if there's no Njoku and it's Harrison Bryant, I mean, there's like 10 target upside potentially this week.
Okay, I like it, actually. Like it a lot. I think I had him at 19, so we're very close. Cade Otton, also playing tonight, has had 2 top 14 finishes in the last 3 weeks. Is he hide in tight end 2 as long as Braid is out?
I've got him mid-range. I've actually got him behind Juwan Johnson and Harrison Bryant. And it's hard to rank those guys. Like it's not a big gap at all. If I was, projecting it, it'd be like, 0.4 of a point behind or something like that. He's averaged 5 targets a game the last few weeks. So I just think like Brady still obviously prefers Godwin as his middle of the field guy. So, I just think the target picture is a little bit brighter for Juwan Johnson and Harrison Bryant.
And how does that affect your ranking today, knowing that Julio was actually going to be on the field?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go and look at that before kickoff here. I wasn't sure what to do with Julio, to be honest with you, Billy. Like
I think I slapped him at 40 and said that's maybe where he'll finish. It's just tough.
I've got him like outside the top 50. I'm not sure what to do with him, man. It's tricky.
Yeah, he could, injure his knee on the first play and not play
right.
the snap, or he could, catch 2 balls down the sidelines for 50 yards and probably finish in that range. So it's very hard to project this week with him, not knowing what his health is going to allow him to do and also what this offense is going to do. But all I do know is that he looked better the offense looked better when he was on the field with him and Evans. And so we'll see how they do moving forward. Before we move on to tight end, hammer through some more questions, and then we'll wrap up the show here. We have a couple questions, quite a few actually. So I'm gonna go through this kind of speed demon style. Where was it? I lost my spot. Okay, Dante Foreman or Michael Carter?
Carter.
Okay, I got Carter as well. Elephant in the room. Can you start Baltimore defense versus Tampa tonight?
I think you can.
I think so too.
Yeah, I mean Brady is sackable and interceptable, so I think so.
Okay, and half PPR: Drake London, Garrett Wilson, or Darnell Mooney. I lean London.
Yeah, I do too. I think he's my highest ranked of those guys. They're all kind of in the same tier, though.
Okay, and then we have Flex, Wandale, Gus, or Foreman this week. I think Foreman.
Yes, Foreman for me also.
Okay. This one is easy. Pittman, Wandale, Myers, Judy. Pittman for me, even with.
Yeah. I mean, I've got Myers is close behind, just like a spot or 2 behind for me, but I still have Pittman highest.
Okay, and then Walker, Singletary, running backs currently with Gabe Davis, Higgins, Kupp, and Pittman. That's a good set of receivers. Would you bench Singletary or Pittman for Pollard? I'd bench Singletary for Pollard.
Yeah, I would too, even though the Packers' run D has been pretty bad. We can't count on Singletary for double-digit carries. So yeah, I think you gotta get Pollard in there, as we discussed earlier.
Yep. And we answered this one earlier. We're not benching Andrews if he's active tonight. Jose says that fly has been driving me crazy. Yes, it has. I've done 2 podcasts today, and he's been in here all day. So him and I have gotten pretty comfortable. I caught him earlier, actually, in my hand, and I thought I squeezed him, but apparently he was like in the one crevice that I had no pressure in. And then as soon as I went to like throw him on the counter, he flew away. And that's the only time I've caught him today. So unfortunately, he's going to be in here all night. You going to play Brady or Dalton? I'm still going Brady. Baltimore.
Brady.
Yeah, that one's pretty easy, I think. We got 5 more questions. Goddard, have Goddard. Would you start Hurts at flex over Bateman, Pickens, or Lockett?
No, not over any of those 3.
Yeah, it's a tough one because as much as I like Pickens, he's been boom bust. Where Hurts should probably see an uptick in usage with Jamar Chase out. Who Cincinnati is facing
Browns Monday night,
and the Browns are the 7th best against the tight end, so probably not. Let's stick with the backside Bateman's pick and Lockett. Let's keep Hurts on the bench one more week and then see what the matchups are week to week after that. This one should not be a question, but it is. Sutton or Campbell?
Gotta go Sutton.
Absolutely. And then Godwin or Waddle. Those ones are back-to-back in my rankings.
Yeah, I've got Waddle higher. Good matchup.
I got Godwin one spot below Waddle as well. So Waddle against Detroit, I think, is the play here. But again, keep in mind, these are 1 spots in rankings. It could go either way, folks. That's a coin flip. And then Panthers or Baltimore DST.
Oh man, let's see. I gotta check that one really fast, Billy. I think I've got Baltimore higher because I don't like starting a defense against a running team. You know what I mean? Like it's fewer sack and interception opportunities. So yeah, I do have Baltimore higher.
Okay. Yep. I'd probably lean Baltimore as well. Okay. And someone else just want to say what's up. Okay, Joe Burrow, last 3 guys, and then we're going to get out of here before kickoff, is Joe Burrow's finished the last so he's finished as quarterback 1 in back-to-back weeks. So the quarterback 1. Doesn't have Jamar Chase now moving forward. Is he still a top 3, top 4 quarterback moving forward?
Yeah, like top 5 maybe.
Okay.
I'll give him top 5. I still put him behind, I guess, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Mahomes, probably Hurts and Lamar.
Okay,
I'd agree with that. 5 for me.
And did he move down this week after the news for you?
Yeah, has not moved down. Like I still wouldn't move him below like Justin Herbert. Like I think he's really good. I think he's still going to make it work without Chase.
Yeah, and Boyd's one of the better wide receiver 3s in the league, anyways. So
yeah,
and Higgins can easily step into a number 1 role. So I think the offense will still tick. It just won't be maybe as efficient.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones, talk about efficient. It continues to impress. He's finished as the quarterback 3 in week 7, quarterback 9 on the year. Will Jones finish as a quarterback 1 in 2022?
I'm going to say outside of QB1 range, but like upper end QB2. And it's crazy, Billy. He's thrown almost 200 passes this year and has 2 interceptions. Like who is this in Daniel Jones's body?
It's Dable's mind melding with him and helping him control. I actually have him pretty high in my rankings this week. So Daniel Jones right now, I have him as quarterback 10 this week. I've thought about putting him as 9, but I have him ahead of Derek Carr, ahead of Geno Smith. I mean, you're talking about Aaron Rodgers, who hasn't been much, Stafford, who hasn't been much. Daniel Jones ahead of all these guys. Where does he land in your rankings?
He's QB 12 for me, and I have debated I may yet move him ahead of the DK Metcalf-less Geno Smith.
Yep, that's why
I can't move him ahead of Carr just because the Saints are so decimated at cornerback right now. Like if they don't get either Lattimore or Paulson Adebo back, like I'm gonna have to keep Carr up there. But Jones is inside QB1 range for sure.
Okay, and then last question is, what the hell is happening at the quarterback position this year? Brady's quarterback 12, Rodgers quarterback 18, Derek Carr is quarterback 19, Wilson is quarterback 22, Stafford is quarterback 25. Is there hope for any of these guys for the remainder of the year?
I think Carr is going to be okay because Carr is still quarterback 15 in points per game and like still kind of getting the bugs out maybe with Devontae Adams getting that Fresno State mojo back. I think he's going to be okay. Rodgers, like the offensive line hasn't been as good, no weapons. Brady is just getting old like that. Maybe that was just bound to happen, like a guy in his mid 40s with a performance decline, who could have imagined. Stafford, I think he'll still have some big yardage and touchdown games, but the interceptions seem to be like a permanent part of his game. And who else Russ.
Yeah.
And like, I think he'll play a little better than he did the first 3 weeks, but maybe the old Russ is gone. Like he used to have this thing, Billy, where he would get like pressure from the edges and he would spin out of it. He had like this cat quick spin that he was so
did it
good
every
with.
time in my Niners, every time.
Yeah, and then he's running free, and you've got like receivers, running the scramble drill downfield and getting open, and like he made so many big plays that way. And I just don't think Russ has that quickness to escape the pass rush anymore.
Maybe we just need to take away, like, put in the second string line and make him run more, right? Like, maybe his line's too good and he doesn't know what to do with himself. He's just so used to bad offensive lines.
Exactly.
Well, Pat, thanks for hopping on the show with me tonight, running through some of the Week 8 discussion. Why don't you tell the listeners where to find you and what you're working on?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Billy. Always a blast to hang out with you. Love chopping it up with you. People can find me. They can find my stuff at fantasypros.com. Check out the Fitz on Fantasy podcast and check me out on Twitter at Fitz_FF.
And that's it, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night. And we'll see you all back here Saturday, midnight Eastern, as I break down the injury reports and answer all your start-sit questions heading into Sunday morning matchups. Take care, all.
Welcome to the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast, presented by the Fantasy Football World Championship, home to the industry's most accurate rankings.